Hello everyone, in this episode I'm gonna do another test after the nerfs to the bleeding spirits. There is one comment in the previous video that a player asked me to showcase a build that is not utilize a broken mechanic, and basically I'm gonna showcase the same build just without the bleeding spam. But overall, this nerf actually don't apply to a boundless dungeon farming. Usually applies to a boss fights with 10 million plus life pool, because anyways I need to basically stack the bleeding before I start score damage. And as you can see, mini bosses with couple of millions, they die the same way pretty quick. Most of the Nemesis, they are below 10 millions. So actually, build got nerfed mainly at the tiebreakers. It's extremely strong still. It's a definitely S tier build. Just is not able to get a good time at the timers for the tiebreakers basically. The only change that I did is to cut off Phantasmal armor and cut off Wendigo totem so I can get max out Circle of Slaughter. This gives me basically stronger dot, and also Ring of Steel and Circle of Slaughter, they get slightly buffed in the new patch. Now they deal more damage. But as I said, build is totally fine even without the exploit. We have Fabius, you can see, he is 9 millions. And dot damage ramp up to 800k. Of course, I'm not that fast like I'm supposed to be. But in general, also Fabius is a very bleeding resistant. On top of that, Lonka and taller bleeding rest got nerfed as well. So I kill them much faster, which is my main problem back in the days when I run Double Nemesis. But clear speed is completely unaffected. Still very fast build for a dot class. We have Gurk and Lucia. Lucia is kinda annoying with all this sleep and stuff. But if you manage to apply all the bleeding to both of them, they die fairly quick. The main benefit now is I don't have to sitting and spam bleeding spirit. I can dodge mechanics, which makes my runs even safer. I got almost the same time. Just my gameplay, I'm not that in a rush. I am already rank 4, so there is no point for me anymore to rush the game. I can just enjoy the last month of the league, basically testing stuff. Overall, sustain get better. Various changes to the way I play this build. Basically now I'm properly a kiting class. I don't have to sit in one place spamming spirits anymore. Single target damage according to the exploit is cut by half. Usually I ramp up the dot to 1,600,000. Now it's just 8, in the best case 900, which is fair enough. This is a fair nerf, honestly. It was too broken. But this by any means doesn't mean the build is nerfed to the ground. Honestly, from God tier, build becomes S tier. Still one of the strongest build in the league, in my opinion. I test every single boss. I did Moira, I did Galacross, I did everyone. I did Double Nemesis. Build is extremely dangerous. Still not so bursty, but as you can see, if I spam a proper Nemesis, they die fairly quick. And I can kite. I can do whatever I want instead of sitting in one place. Build becomes much more fun to play. Because let's be honest, sitting there and spamming Blade Spirit is a kinda boring and annoying playstyle. So if anybody of you needs a proper Double Nemesis farmer, this one is a very good candidate. It's a extremely safe class to play, especially, of course, it's quite expensive. I run some very important corruptions. For example, you definitely want a flat resistance shred on the Neomort Hook Dagger. You want either flat life or percentage life on the chest. On the pants, doesn't matter, I have defensive ability, it's okay. Boots, still not corrupted. Mine is mainly here for the stun resistance. Gloves, I got casting speed. It was helpful when I spam spirits, now it's just completely meme. Shoulders, we look here for armor or stats. I got stats, which is fair for me. I like the extra stats. I can shift to get more cunning, get more crit and stuff. Shield, it's not very important as a corruption. Medal, max resistance. I got the worst possible roll. I got cold and chaos, but it's what it is. Rings, ideally you want life regen, energy regen, something like this. Definitely Ultus corruption. But the most important to run the build and score enough damage is flat resistance on the dagger. Of course, this build is completely meta in my opinion. Also, Syrah set got some nerfs in terms of bleeding resistance shred and some other minor changes, which is fair enough. The set is way too good for a bleeding trickster. Also, I highly recommend, if you want to play much more dynamic and score more damage, I highly recommend Ground Zero version of this build. He relies mostly on different sources to stack bleeding damage, like Phantasmal Blades and Circle of Slaughter. His Circle of Slaughter is much harder than mine, because he uses Boris Axe and a proper damage devotions. Of course can't achieve this level of sustain because he sacrificed partially of the sustain for damage, which is fair enough. But still his build is a very interesting one, I would say, if you prefer dynamic playstyle. This one is much more simple. I just hit Devouring Swarm, Ring of Steel, and basically Bleeding Spirits. I use a pet attack on the left click so I can basically navigate them properly, otherwise they are kinda dumb. And also I spam Wendigo Totem for a little bit more damage and more sustain. The main downside of this type of builds, you need a little bit of time to ramp up the dot. It's not so burst as a class. This guy stuck there. We're gonna leave that. How I kill so much bandits and I don't have the Romanov letter. It's a mystery to me. There is a couple of corpses here that I wanna click. And here is a proper example. As you can see, a low life boss dies fairly quick. Second phase, I'm gonna apply some more shred. Just face tank him, waiting for the dot to ramp up. What we got? Derivius. This is kinda scary. Chase as well. He possesses a blade trap, which means I have to kill Chase first. Derivius is kinda tanky. Also Derivius possesses a Menhir's Will. He's gonna fill up his life bar. When you have Derivius, never waste your movements on a stupid stuff. Just waiting for him to spawn the meteor showers. You can always get away from him with just basic movements. Especially on a high tank setup. What we got here? Return and Gothic, I believe. This is a fair combo, not very scary. Return is a little bit unpredictable on a low DA builds. Okay, we dodged that. Another Ultus. We are happy with this. We got Talar, Lonka. This was a nightmare for me before the changes. Now they have fair resistances to bleeding. And it's much easier for me to deal with them. Of course they score a lot of damage. You want to avoid the Trojans and devastation. Before the changes, this battle is gonna be properly 3 or more minutes, which is kinda annoying. But I'm so glad they put them in a fair range of resistances. We have Mishio, Uro. This is a fair combination. Pretty easy for me. Apart from the energy drain. Drop is a little bit disappointing, but we can't have everything. Another disappointing loot, but is what it is. I would say pretty profitable run. 3 Ultuses, several Ishtaks, and some minor stuff for our old characters. Last chest is disappointing, but in general this is the build after the nerfs. I would say it's still very strong. Lose some burst potential and some single target potential, of course, can't be very competent. The tiebreaker still can kill every single boss on SR10. I tested, just the problem is the time is quite bad. compared to my last previous times with most of the bosses. And I have to think for a different build to kill Moira at shard 10. This one do it kinda slow. I'm not gonna put good time on it. But thank you everyone for watching. See you in the next one.